and welcome to today's Courage Talk on TakeTheCourage.com. My name is Duri and I'm the founder of this platform. My vision is to bring more courage into work, into the world of work. Today, I have a special guest. She is the winner of the Courage Award 2021 by TakeTheCourage.com and Be Woman Your Business Network. It's Bettina Dührkoop. Who she is and what's her story, you're gonna hear that in a short while. Hello, Bettina, and welcome to the talk.
Hello,
nice
Dori.
Having you here today with me.
Thank you.
Our Courage Talk. Hey, you were the winner of the Courage Award 2021 by TakeTheCourage.com and Be Woman. How is it? How does it feel?
It feels fantastic. I felt extremely honored. And but to be honest, it was something that I shared with the team because I basically got it for founding this all remote company, and my entire team is part of this being all remote, and they all were very, very happy and very, very proud. So that went down well, really good.
Yes, of course. It was a Juli Award.
Yes.
Before we go deeper, you were so kind and asked your team, so they say what's courage for them. So let's share that with the world and then go deeper into our conversation. Is that okay for you?
Absolutely. Fire off.
Okay, let's do that.
I'm Bettina and I'm in Boston. Courage for me is to stick to your convictions in difficult situations.
I'm Miron. I am from Krasnodar, Russia. Courage for me is to try new things and work on improving myself.
Yeah, my name is Daniel Benjamin. I am currently in Lagos, Nigeria. Courage is knowing the path you are taking is hard and scary, but you still go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jermaine. I'm in San Antonio, Texas. And to me, courage is asking questions when you feel like the biggest idiot in the room.
Hello, my name is Mikhail. I am in St. Petersburg. I am encouraged by sports and music.
Hey, I'm Christian. I'm in Rotterdam in the Netherlands, and courage for me means taking all the opportunities that I'm given to learn something new every day.
I'm Eddie, Lagos, Nigeria. Courage for me is pushing beyond odds in Nigeria personally to actually be successful.
Max, I'm from Krasnoyarsk, Russia, so helping people by sharing my experience, what encourages me.
I'm Emerald from Lagos, Nigeria, and courage to me means standing up for myself in almost everything, and also believing in myself that I can do way more than I'm giving credit for.
Hello, my name is Nikita. I'm from Krasnoyarsk, Russia. And the courage for me is to go hiking, knowing that there are always some bears out there.
I'm Bettina from Switzerland, Zurich. To me, courage is to work with all of you. It's a challenge every day, but it's fun.
Bettina, you say at the end that it's courage is for you working with that team or something like that, yeah?
Yes.
What do you mean exactly with that?
Well, it's part of this having an all remote company. You know, you have so many different cultures, different backgrounds, different religions, different languages. And we face that every day to overcome these barriers that go along with that. It takes courage, and it very often takes courage to phrase a question and not knowing, am I touching something now that I shouldn't touch? That does take courage, but it's absolutely worth it. It's fun.
So I can believe, yeah. So it could take courage sometimes. Do you want to tell us who you are and what is your story?
Okay. Well, my name is Bettina Dührkoop. I was born and raised in Germany. My mother was a bookseller, so I have this kind of intellectual, cultural background. But my dad was an officer in the German army, which is about as most of a country as you can think of. So I have these two sides in me, and that also meant that we moved around a lot during my childhood. So I can't even say I'm really German because I partly lived in the US and in Belgium and in various places in Germany, and that clearly shaped me towards what I am today. I studied business economics with marketing and statistics as major, and then started my career at Bertelsmann, a large worldwide media company that have a very strong entrepreneurial background. They try to push young management people into entrepreneurial-like experiences, and that's what they did with me. I worked a lot in the book area. There comes the bookseller in again. And as well in book club as in online sales. We tried to do an Amazon competition, which was kind of difficult, but very international. We launched online bookshops in 17 countries around the world within 2 years. So that was a bit of a challenge.
Wow.
But very interesting, and my first experience of working in an international environment. It was the first kind of all remote experience that I had back then. And then in 2000, the dot-com bubble burst and all of that went down the drain, and I decided to go someplace else and to start my work in Switzerland with a Swiss company called Blue Wind. They were the #1 online internet provider, and I did marketing CRM for them. Later on for Swisscom, because they were bought by Swisscom. And in 2006, I think, yes, 2006, we decided that we want to go abroad. My husband and I, we said, okay, we are still young, kids are small, let's do that. So we moved to New York, which was absolutely fun. I really loved the time in New York. And when we came back, I decided that I want to do something of my own. And I founded my own advertising agency together with a friend of mine, Thomas, and did that for almost 12 years. And that was a different experience. It's totally different to have your own company versus have a big company behind you. But it was definitely worth it. And I always say, once you start doing this, there's no way back. You can't go back corporate once you've had your own company. But as with so many things, it got boring after a while. I did everything I could there. I had a great team. I had great clients. I won awards. I did amazing campaigns.
More awards?
Years ago, I felt like, am I sure I want to do that for the next 15 years or however long I want to continue working? And it felt like it's naturally coming to some kind of an end. I want to do something different. So I sold the agency, in hindsight, lucky punch, because I sold it end of 2019. 2 months later, this would have been really difficult. And together with my good friend, Bettina Hein, started Juli. We got together. She was in a bit of a same situation. She wanted to start something new. She was at a changing turning point in her career. So the two of us sat together and said, okay, let's do this. Let's put together all our expertise, all that we know, and start a company. And that is where we are right now. A year and a half later, we have this health app up and running and are quite happy. We have our first investors. We got them in December last year. We're just doing the second round. We have the app up and running. We have by now almost 7,000 users that use the app. We get a lot of really positive feedback. So yeah, things are looking good. We have an awesome team all over the world. I'm happy.
So it sounds like you have really moved forward successfully and courageously in your career. Would you agree?
I mean, it sounds like that. Of course, there were ups and downs. Of course, that comes along with the learning curve, that comes with mistakes and errors that you make. But you can only grow if you try out things, and if you learn that failure is not the end of the world, and that it is there to learn something and make it better next time. I guess that's the way I look at the world.
So the kind of, what is your recipe? So is that the kind of a courage to try, to fail, get up, go further? What is it?
Well, I mean, courage, I often say courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is to overcome fear. And everybody has fear. Even the most courageous people you can think of do have fear. It's about managing that fear. It's about saying, okay, I will try. I know if it doesn't work out, that's not the end of the world. But if it does, it was worth the effort. And many people, when they have these experience of success, experience of overcoming fear, that is a great feeling. That gives you endorphins. I think you probably can get addicted to that. You know, you're facing something that generates fear in yourself and said, I'm still going to do it. I'm going to breathe deeply and I'm trying. That is and then you do it. The feeling afterwards is amazing. Really, I can highly recommend it.
A lot of people, especially a lot of professionals, would love to do that, and they are trapped in this kind of, in a success circle to say we have achieved a kind of a level of success, but then it is very scary for them to say, like you, that after 12 years you've done everything you wanted to do and it got kind of boring and you just decided to move forward. And that's really challenging for a lot of people to get out of that kind of success level trap. What would you advise them? How should they move forward? I mean, you're talking about the fear, and a lot of them are fearful. They just can't get out of that. What's your advice?
I definitely wouldn't advise to do things that are simply mad. I mean, there's a thin line between fear that is there because we should be fearsome. I mean, mankind has been a hunted animal. When you look back at evolution, we were hunted by big predators. So our natural instinct is to hide.
Exactly.
We're not the natural, here I am, come to me. We are fearsome, and that is normal. So having fear is nothing to be ashamed of, and is in many cases quite healthy. There are a lot of things you simply shouldn't do. But it's worth looking a bit deeper. Where does this fear come from? Where does it have its roots? And why are these roots still valid points? If I have a family to support with small children, should I go the risk and start a new company? Or is my entire situation so settled that actually, yeah, it's a bit of a risk, it is, but if it goes wrong, we can work it out. So I think that is something I would look deep. Why am I afraid of something? Where does this fear come from? And is it still a valid point? So if I'm afraid of heights, I could go say, okay, where does it come from? Did I have a bad experience with heights or something like that? And is it worth trying to overcome this fear? But if I am afraid of something that is a very valid thing that I should actually be afraid of, well, then it's not courage, then it's foolish to do it.
Exactly. I also always say, it's not about being courageous headlessly, to really look the fear in the eye and look at the risks as well, because courage doesn't mean you close your eyes and jump out of the window. It's about, as you say, making this fear transparent. Do you have an experience where you really had the kind of a huge fear and respect towards something and you tackled it and this good feeling was there? Do you have an experience which you wanted to share with us?
I had something very early on in my career. I was just out of university. I was working for a year maybe. And I had a boss who was very high up in ranking. For some reasons, there was reorganization. I was reporting to somebody who was like 3 ranks above me. And it turned out he did fraud. He tried to get money out of the company that he was not entitled to have.
Oh.
And I witnessed that. And I was totally into, what do I do? Because it was so frank. It looked like that was a natural thing to do where he was. And I said, okay, if I do that, am I going to carry that around in my HR file for the rest of my career? What's going to happen? Are they going to kick me out if I whistleblow him? But then I did. I reported him and they kicked him out right away, even though he was, I think, 63 and 2 years away from retirement. He was kicked out of the company. And it felt good afterwards. It felt really good. And I felt like if I hadn't done this, I wouldn't have been able to look in the mirror again. And I thought, that's not a, if that company would have kicked me out instead, that's not a company I want to work for. So there was a lot going on, a lot of insecurity about me not being very mature, not very young, and not knowing what would be the outcome of this. But it was absolutely worth it. And I got a lot of really good feedback afterwards. I mean, that spread around the company like fire really quickly. And a lot of people talked to me and said, hey, finally somebody is saying something. So finally things are moving in this direction. So
Yeah.
Yes, that was good. That was worth
Yeah.
it. And I would say today, looking back, that clearly shaped me and said, okay, it's worth doing things. If you think this is the right thing to do, then
Yeah.
do it.
This is the right thing to do is obviously connected with the terms of your values, basically. You know, even if you're a younger person, you know what's right, what's wrong for you, and which are your values. And courage is also to know your values and act upon it. So at that time, maybe, I don't know if you did it kind of feeling it's the right thing, but I don't know, nowadays, would you relate it more to your values?
Yes, I think it's both. It was clearly my values, but it also took courage because it was in a situation where this had obviously been going on for quite a while, and quite a number of people had known it and had not said something, which made me feel, okay, that seems to be okay-ish in this company. And that makes it really difficult to stand up and say, no, this is unacceptable. No, I don't want this to happen. It was a difficult decision, but it was worth it. As I said, I don't regret anything in that regard.
Well, you took leadership at that time. A lot of people were just observing that and not doing anything. So it always takes one person, one courageous voice to start. And if I can connect that with the topic of leadership as a whole, how do you connect courage and leadership with each other? What is your view on that?
I would say I try to live a very open leadership culture. I try to tell everybody who's working with me, we can only succeed if we're really honest with each other. Somebody in my team just said yesterday, courage is if you dare to ask a question, even if you're making a total fool of yourself. And there is no making a fool of yourself. I mean, if you live a culture where asking a question is possible in any given way at any given time, everybody's going to profit from that, because there might be other people that don't understand what we're talking about right now, but don't dare to ask that question. And there's no such thing as a stupid question. Sometimes there are questions asked where all of us sit back and say, oh, that's actually a very valid point. We should think about that. So I think this honesty that takes courage to open up towards others is one of the most important things in a team, in a company, and is clearly my leadership style. I know I'm kind of a bit of an alpha person, and I give the impression that I'm strong, that I'm a leader, that I'm the one, pulls the sword and said, okay, this is the way to go. I'm leading, follow me. But I'm trying to, even though I give this impression, to give my team the feeling, yeah, I'm not sure which way to go. It might look like that, but I'm by far not sure which way to go. And I need your help for that. And I want you to tell me if you think that's the wrong direction. We shouldn't go there, but we should go there. Feel free to speak up. Speaking up is a big culture within Julie, and actually within every team that I led.
Well, you led to that somehow. No, people see you as a role model, especially in this kind of positions, and then they basically do it after you. So if you do it, you allow them as well to do that. So that's what you're also doing now in Julie, yeah?
It takes courage to open up, to show people that I'm by far not as self-mature, so that standing here firmly on my ground as people might think I do. But I think it's absolutely worth of taking that risk of showing people there's a vulnerable side to yourself. That's, by the way, something I think more female leaders do than male leaders. In the male world, that is something that is a bit of a no-go, to show some insecureness. What I think we could use more of that.
So basically, vulnerability. That's a huge word, I think, but I think this is what you're kind of trying to do that as well, to stand there and say, you know, I don't know everything, you know, what's your view?
Yes, I fully agree. I mean, this vulnerability is something that we all have, everybody, no matter which gender, and showing that makes you more human and makes you more touchable and makes you be a better leader, I think. There's a fine line. Your team expect you to lead. That is why you are the leader. But still, it's worth hearing everybody and saying, I'm not that sure what we should do myself. I have my opinion, but your opinion is valuable and important as well.
Mm-hmm. So I guess your team has adopted that as well. They dare to ask and they dare to stand there as well and say, look, I'm not sure.
Yes, absolutely. That's part of our culture.
Mm-hmm. An all remote company, is it easy to establish a culture? How was it for you guys?
That is indeed a challenge, I have to admit. I mean, we have this daily meeting, the daily stand-up meeting, where everybody says his word of the day, and just not only the word itself, but everybody says a little story to that. So I would say probably today's cinema, because I went to see a movie yesterday, and that was for the first time since the pandemic hit, and I absolutely loved it. It's one step back to normal. And you can see when I say that, I'm thrilled. That was fun. That was great. So in a normal company, you would meet people at the coffee machine, and while drawing a coffee, you would chit chat a bit how they are today and get that feeling. And that is more difficult in an all remote company, because you don't see the people that much and that often. And very often Zoom calls are very functional. You have your agenda, you walk through it, that's it. Okay, any comments? Thank you, no, bye. And that is difficult to maintain something like a culture in that case. But we have a lot of little tools that we use to do culture. Tomorrow, for example, no, today actually, we're gonna all have a little drink that we're gonna share with each other. Everybody brings some drink to celebrate something. We got a good news yesterday, so we want to celebrate that. It's okay. What is it in your country or for you as a person that you now would drink to cheer to this success? And it's little things like that that are fun to look at, and that makes us grow together as a team. Mm-hmm. Still, we do come together every few months, I'd say 3 times a year, maybe somewhere physically, just to get to know each other a lot better and to bond. I think even as an all remote company, you can't do everything just all remote. You need to see each other in real life every now and then.
Yeah, it's a little different, no? As I think you mentioned in one of your talks, if you see the person as a whole, you're not only the head. And
yeah, and you see them from the side and from the back. It's like the two of us. I only see your face. I have no idea whether you have a long or round head and what your hairdo looks from the back.
Yeah, but we at least have seen each other once. Okay, that's very, very interesting. And as you say as well, you know, also the term of courage that is can be also very related to the culture and where you come from, and also vulnerability. You know, what is the culture say, and how am I grown up, just from the childhood point of view, or the way my people live. And the way courage is perceived now.
I think I learned from an early age on to be courageous. I'd say my father played an important role in that. He said, things you don't like to do them first. And that's a good advice, actually. I mean, if you have to do something, go to the dentist, things like you try to push to the side. He said, no, tackle them first thing. The first thing you do in the morning is you pick up the phone and you make that appointment and then you go. And that's actually good advice, because carrying these things around in the back of your head doesn't make them any better. So I try to incorporate that in my life. That was definitely a good one. And the other one was moving a lot. We moved every 2 years or so. I also learned to be courageous. You know, being the newbie in a class of 30 children is never a fun position to be in. And it pays off to take the courage and stand up and say, okay, I'm the new one. Here I am. Anybody wants to talk to me? Do you want to come and have a play date, or whatever it is that you say then, instead of hiding in the corner of that classroom and not talking to anybody and hoping that people will approach you, because that's not going to happen. If you don't stand up and say, here I am, you will stand in the corner for the next 2 years. And that's something you learn quite quickly as a child. But you also learn that it absolutely pays off. I mean, it's something to be afraid of, but once you do that, you feel good, because people are interested in you and people are as afraid of you as you are of them. And that's something I definitely learned in my early childhood, that it pays off to be courageous. I think that's something that definitely shaped me.
Mm-hmm. And then you also learn that you can learn courage. Courage is learnable, and you can, start training your courage muscles whenever.
Yes.
And as if you do it from a childhood, then of course it's easier. And I wish a lot of other kids, school system would encourage the kids more in other ways, so that they can move forward totally differently in our today's world. No?
Yeah, I mean, children are different. I have 3 children, and I'm always surprised that with the same gene pool and the same idea of bringing up children, 3 totally different characters emerge. That's always every day a new surprise and a new adventure. But I think for some kids, it takes more courage than it takes other kids.
Sure.
But still, I'm totally confident that that courage can be learned. That courage can be learned if you face a child with the right amount of daring task that it can solve. I mean, that it can master. Then it will experience this good result, this good feeling when you say, oh, I did it. Although I was afraid of it, I did it.
Exactly.
And that feels good. And that is something I think every child should learn one way or another.
Yeah, totally agree with you. What about any failures, or something you couldn't succeed, or an opportunity you really missed just because of the lack of courage? Do you have an example for that, a learning through that?
I mean, being an entrepreneur, you go to various failures. That comes with it. My good friend Bettina and co-founder always says, oh, I'm the master of mistakes. I have made mistakes that were worth millions in my career. And that just comes with it. And it's my first massive failure when I was quite young again, that also cost the company, I'd say, quite a large amount of money. And I felt like, oh, I'm going to be fired. But instead, my boss, he didn't even shout at me. He just came and said, okay, so what is it that went wrong? And what are you going to do that it's not going to happen again? And that was a very, very valuable lesson. I learned that, and I did that with my team as well. He said, you are so young. We gave you so many tasks, and so big tasks. We knew that comes with a risk of failure. You are in charge of all this, and that is a difficult task. So we took the risk. We knew that something could go wrong, and you will learn from it. And the most important thing you have to learn is, okay, apparently something happened that should not have happened. What can we do to not make it happen again?
Yeah.
And I was really, really awed by this reaction. To this very day, I'm still like, wow, that's the best reaction you can ever give to someone. And that's also something I try to give to my employees and even to my children. I say, life is full of mistakes and errors and failures. That's part of life, and that's no big deal. If you come home and you have a bad grade in math, just sit back and say, okay, why did it happen, and what am I gonna do differently next time? There's nothing you can do now anyway. It happens, gone, done. But what can you do to not make it happen next time again?
Mm-hmm. Wow, yeah, I mean, that's a huge topic that takes us again back to the topic of leadership and courage. You know, how do you want to set up a courage culture? And one of the most important basics out there to allow people to fail and to learn from the mistakes and to move forward, that for the benefit of the company and for the benefit of people so they develop. And that's unfortunately not really given in a lot of companies. In a lot of companies, making mistakes and failures are still very not so pleasant, and people get punished for that. So do you think today's leadership needs more courage than ever before? How's your view on that?
I do not only think today's leadership, I also think the perception of leaders should be different. I mean, if I look at politicians and the things that are written about them in the press or on social media or wherever it is, it feels like we think our leaders should be saints. There's absolutely no room for any mistake whatsoever. And that brings us to, okay, if that's the case, who wants to be a leader anymore? Because that's clearly a not very desirable position to be in. If we allocate responsibility for something to a person who is a leader, be it a politician or be it a person in a company or even a teacher, whatever it is, leaders in our life, they are not saints. They are human beings. If we give them the responsibility to do something, that comes with the possibility that something goes wrong and that this is only human, and they will learn from it and they will grow with it, but that's part of them as much as it's part of us. So I think that's one of the most important things we should change in our culture today. It's very easy to finger point to someone else and say, look, he did this or that wrong. If you look closely, say, okay, wouldn't I have been able to make this mistake myself? Is there not room for mistakes anymore? That's my opinion on that. So I think it's not only how leaders lead, it's also about how people underneath perceive leaders and what they expect from leaders. There needs to be room for failure as well.
Exactly. And still, you know, they are not, I mean, not all leaders are perfect, and they are not, you know, they don't have to be perfect. And still it takes courage also for those people, you know, employees to take the leadership role, even if they don't have it, like you did, you know, to bring up that topic, to be a little leader, take the courage, speak up, stand up, tell your opinion, bring something to the table, even if you're not in that official position. And unfortunately, a lot of people just, yeah, maybe they don't have the room and lack that courage to do that, just because they think twice or many times about it. What could be the outcome for me? Could I lose my job through that? And so on, like you did, you know, when you thought about bringing up that incident or not. So I think there are so many topics that are connected with each other, but it starts, of course, always with courageous leader on top and how they do perceive their leadership position.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What about the future? Your future. It doesn't have to be always connected with Julie. Is there anything, any plans, any vision which you want to achieve and that might really take courage? Is there something in the air?
Well, I mean, I'm at the age where certain things are not possible anymore. I'm not going to be an Olympic champion, although that would be lovely, but that's pretty clear not going to happen. So I think I will be happy if we get with Julie what we strive for. That is a big challenge. We want want this to be a really big company in order to be able to help millions of people, and that will take there are massive tasks that ahead of us that will take courage. But at the same time, I feel this challenge of combining that with my other life. I mean, I'm not only the CMO and the CPO of Julie, I'm also all kinds of other things that I want to strive and achieve in. And that's one of the most challenging things I find, is balancing this life between work. I hate the word work-life balance, because work is part of my life, but work and the rest of my life, yeah, that to balance that is a challenge, and takes courage every day. To say no to certain things in both areas is something that I find challenging, but that I want to do and need to do in order to live the life I want to live. I think the challenges in Julie in itself are great and are taking courage, but in order to do that the best way I can, I need to balance that out as good as I can as well.
For yourself, for your private stuff, in order to be able to tackle the higher challenges.
Yes. And I also, we always get this image of women in business that seem like the perfect business women, and where I feel like I kind of don't believe that. I think they all tackle the same challenges, and that's not just because you're somewhere in a management position in a company. Somebody could work as a shopkeeper and still strive for the same challenges that we are all facing. I think that's still a large task ahead of us, to find the perfect balance for that between private life and your job life.
Mm-hmm. And this collective courage, and for example, in respect of Julie, I mean, it's not you alone, it's Bettina, the other Bettina, and your team. So this collective courage, what is your perception on that? Because this big vision you guys have, certainly, I don't know if you want to, add on more team members to your team, but this collective courage really has got a power. How do you see that? How do you experience that in your team?
I mean, our vision is to become the #1 household brand for people with chronic conditions.
Wow.
We want to be like the aspirin for chronic conditions. That is what we are working on. And I think the culture we have is shaped by the way we do it, and that can be felt throughout the team. All the people that we employed are courageous in one way or another, and we need them to be courageous to achieve what we envision there. It is a big vision, but it's nevertheless worth trying. And I think just courageously moving forward, overcome the fear of failure, is the only way to go. It's
exactly.
It's the way that we want to go, and it's the way that we lead ahead, and it's the way that we work towards as a team.
Exactly. And a kind of one step after the other, the courage of just moving forward and don't stand still. And that collectively. So what is the kind of a biggest lesson on the way of your entrepreneurship and what you have experienced on your career way, which you want to share with us? So might be related to courage or not, doesn't play a role.
Well, in entrepreneurship, I mean, that's different than in corporate life. But in terms of entrepreneurship, being agile is one of the most important things to learn, because everybody starts with a plan and say, okay, this is my business idea. This is the idea of how I want to do this. And this is how I envision myself and the company in 10 years, let's say. And then very early on, you will realize, oh, things change. Some things I might have not assessed correctly in the beginning. My environment might have changed. There might be a competitor that I didn't see in the beginning. So being agile, being able to shift around and say, okay, let's adjust this lift to the left or a bit to the right, whatever it is something that is essential for an entrepreneur. And it's also essential for you as a person. The more stubborn you cling to something that you thought is important in your life, the more difficult it gets to achieve something, because the world is not set in a way that things remain the same and that my perceivance of that is correct all the time. Very often I learn something new and I have to adjust whatever I thought was right, maybe is not right anymore. So being agile is one thing that I think is really, really important in all career paths, and especially for an entrepreneur. And the second thing is being open and tolerant. Listen, 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 listen. As a leader, you are supposed to talk, you're supposed to lead the way, say, as I said, take this word, this is the way to go, come with me. But many people that I see have a lack of ability to listen then. And listening is one of the most important things, or the most important skills that you can have as a good leader. Listen to your team, listen to the market, listen to other experts that are around. Just listen and try to get as much information as you can in order to come up with the best solution for your problem. And when you've heard these things, again, be agile to move into that direction, and don't dare to say, no, 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 that was my plan, I have to stick to that. Take the courage to change your mind.
Especially nowadays, more than ever.
Oh yes, I think if Corona has taught us anything, it has taught us exactly that. Things can change from one day to the other. Our world can turn in a way that we don't recognize it anymore, and then you have to be agile enough to adjust to that. Exactly. I mean, if you would have asked me a few years ago would I found an all remote company, I would have clearly said, no way, why would I? Now I say it's the best thing in the world. I would, if I had to do it again, yes, I would.
So Corona contributed to that. Juli is a positive outcome of the Corona times, yeah. So what kind of advice, thoughts, or any inspiration would you want to give those ladies on the way who want to set up their own business or follow their own entrepreneurship path?
Well, you have to have a business idea first. Don't be afraid if somebody had that same idea as well. That is something I hear quite often. Yes, but you know, other people are doing what you do already. So what? I mean, with 8 billion people around the world, there will always be someone who had that idea before you. It's just the task of making it better than that other person or company. Don't be afraid of competition. Come up with an idea, come up with a plan, and then follow through. Take the courage to do it. But as I said, be agile enough to adjust your plans if you realize this is not 100% the way it should work. Maybe it's only 90%. Well, then move around and go to the next 90%. Just go. I mean, it takes a certain naivety to start a company, because there are many things that would come along that you now don't even dream of, or that you didn't think of. That comes with it, and it is a roller coaster. Be prepared that there will be many ups and downs, but it's absolutely worth it. I can highly recommend it.
I agree. I can also recommend it, totally. We talked before about the collective courage, and obviously it's always good to have a role model, somebody who inspires and encourages you on the way. Is there anybody who is your courage role model, who is inspiring you, encouraging you daily?
Well, I mean, there are many role models. I would, in most cases, first of all, name my own mom. She was clearly a role model. She left home and did a lot of things that were courageous because she didn't follow the path that other person thought she should follow. But the other person that I really like in this regard is Marie Curie, because she had great intellectual power. She was amazingly smart. And she took over a lot of roles as the first female something. She was the first female professor at the Sorbonne. She was the first female Nobel Prize winner. There's a lot of first females in her, but she didn't do them because she wanted to be the first female something. She wanted to do these things, and that's why she did it. And that's something I really like in her. And she had a lot of grit in following that path. A lot of what she did in science, you know, it takes years to come up with a result there. Me being business economics, I always think studying business economics is not really a study. That's not really intellectual enough. I always look with a bit of envy to the scientists and say, wow, that is really, you know, they do real science. So I think that's why she's a role model to me. I admire scientists, and I think there was a lot of courage to what she did. She lost her husband quite at an early age. She raised 2 kids and still had this amazing career as a scientist. I think that took bravery and courage, and she's definitely a role model to her. There's a good biography about her written by her own daughter.
Really?
That's by Curie that I can highly recommend to read.
Okay, good to know. I don't know the book. Thank you so much for all these inspirations. That's all from my side. Do you have anything else to add for, in general, for the world?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun to do this interview with you. I really enjoyed it. And every interview in that kind always makes you reflect on your own opinions, on your history and on your past. And I always like this because it makes me rethink some things that I do and maybe do something that I want to share with my team. That was a good thing to do, is say, okay, if I want to bring down courage into one sentence, it's courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is to overcome your fear. I think that is what courage is to me. And that is what I can recommend to everybody to try. Overcome your fear.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much to your team, Julie team. Thank you for your courage to stand there and tell us what's courage with you. I found it really amazing, and I loved it. So that's all from my side for today's talk, and we are going to be staying in touch and talk to you soon.
Thank you, Dührkoop. Bye.